What's up, guys? So, we got a real world example of a woman having an epiphany or coming to a realization or, feeling guilty or whatever. But she says self accountability. Wow, that's rare for a woman to say that. Seems like women are reading what we're saying. Seems like women are starting to get the picture and they're starting to see maybe there's some sense in what we're saying. Maybe. Men aren't stealing shit from you, you're giving it away. Looking back at my life, I changed my perspective and it is a better choice. I wasted my young years. The men were my choice. I would say the men who were my choice. The men were my choice and they were stupid choices. Grow up and be accountable for your own actions. So she's talking to women. That's an interesting. So it seems genuine. Definitely seems genuine, right? But she's saying this now and she could change her mind, or it's crazy that women are so brainwashed with feminism that they really raged and bought into every tenet of it. They raged against men and they went out and slept around. And then here you have a woman who's waking up and she's able to even articulate it. And that's rare. It's rare for a woman who's even, a lot of times women won't even get, because they're so subtle. Everything they do is so deceptive and shrewd and calculated, right? That's just women. It's their nature. It's how they are for whatever reason, right? But she's not being subtle at all. She's just straight up putting it out there, right? Self accountability. So it seems to me like a lot of what men are saying is getting through. Seems to me. But then I wrote this. I said this type of thing is so rare I don't even trust it. It's probably a pick me ploy. Their nature is so opportunistic. But let's say for a minute that she is serious. Is it too late for her? Should a man choose her after she went out and did that? Or is she just damaged goods now? Could you ever trust a woman saying this? It seems to me it's just a clever ploy to undo the damage. They know what we want, and she probably figured out that she has to lie to get a man. Or, I don't know, maybe what does she have to gain by just saying this on Twitter, Maybe it's real. Maybe she'll go so far as to be honest with any potential guy. Maybe. I guess at that point, what do you do? Should a man accept her past because she's honest about it? Very interesting question that a lot of men are being confronted with these days. We know a lot of men are desperate and will take anything they can get. Ironically, women are turned off by that. So it seems they both would have to settle. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, it could be a pick me ploy. There are pick me women out there, but they tend to kind of be somewhat, you know, recognizable. I used to think that women were completely chameleons. There's a few out there like Roma Army, um, just Pearly Things, Jebediah. I don't know her. I can't remember. I don't know her name. Jedediah something. I used to think these women were chameleons and profiteers. I mean, yes, they're profiteers, right? They're making money, but I do think that they, watching them enough, it's very hard to say that they're total liars and chameleons. Is kind of what we used to call it. So I'm starting to think that, and I never thought this, but I'm starting to think that some women are actually waking up. I'm starting to think that some women are starting to take accountability, but it's just super, super rare, man. It's really rare. Of course, you had women like Karen Strawn, and there was another one, I forget her name. I think it starts with Vicky or something like that. God, I can't remember her name. But Karen Strawn did a lot of work, a lot of solid work. You could tell she really cares. There are women who care, man, and it's so. I've made so many videos where I said like all women and they're all like this and that, but it's because that's all you see, like meaning most of it, most of the time you just see the bad, and it's like where's the good? And like I don't know, man. I've been doing this red pill stuff for like, I mean, definitely 10 years making videos now. Because I had a different channel before this one that got taken down because I made some stupid copyright mistakes. But it's been about 15 years since I've really like fully taken the red pill. About 2010, 2012, around there, when I fully took the red pill. So it's almost 15 years, but I've been, you know, around women my whole life, and most of them are just, you know, they're not on that level. They're not on this level of accountability. They're mostly all brainwashed. They're mostly all super feminist. They're mostly all, they really believe that stuff, and it's sad. And I've been realizing that a lot lately too. Is like I've really been, lately I've been doing some trolling, right, on feminist pages. And when you're trolling, you got your little memes that you like to put up, and you got your little sayings or whatever. You might say something, and just to be contrary to whatever stuff they put. Because if you go follow feminist pages, they're just so, they treat men so horrible, and everything they say is like fear mongering and just lies about men and this, that, and the third. And it's like, you really get to see how deeply they buy into it, man. You really get to see how like they really believe that stuff, man. They really, really buy into it. That's why I say it's a cult, because people who are in a cult don't know they're in a cult. It's the same with like, politics. There's people who are in politics, whether it's liberals. I think the liberals are a cult, or whether it's, Republicans, these mega Republicans. I think that's a definite cult. you know Usually cults have one leader, so like that's why I say, the mega thing is an obvious cult. The liberal thing is a cult, but there's no one leader, which is usually kind of rare for a cult, I guess. But usually they have a leader. But I think they're a cult as well, that whole liberal stuff. It's just both sides. And when you study conspiracy theories and the deep state, you realize, yeah, of course they're playing both sides. They control both sides to get the outcome that they want. It's called order out of chaos. If you look up the Freemasons, that's their crest. It's called order out of chaos. You just Google Freemasons order out of chaos, and they're the people who are behind the presidents. They're the people who really run the world, and even they're not as high up. I don't think they're as high up as the Zionists, and the Zionists aren't as high up as the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church and all these factions are not as high up as like these certain royal bloodline families that nobody even knows about. It gets deep, man. But the truth is that the proof is in the pudding. The evidence is in. The evidence is out there. It's like once you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, it totally makes sense. But and feminism is just one of those tools. It's one of those tools to divide men from women. It's been something I've been fighting for 10 years at least. Every video I put out is fighting that. And it's sad, I feel so sorry for these women. It's like, yeah, sure, on the one hand, like, yeah, I'll diss them, and like because you get fed up. You get fed up of being called a misogynist, being called an incel, being called a virgin, and you're a loser, no woman would want you. All the stuff they say, that they just attack you anytime you try to speak truth to them, or you try to, and it's the same with politics. The left right politics. You just, anytime you disagree, it does. You might even be a part. Like if you're a Republican, you might even be a Republican, and like, oh, you know what? I disagree on this one thing, and then 50 other Republicans will come and attack you and call you a liberal, call you a Democrat, and you're just like, what do you mean? Like, I'm more of a Republican than you guys. I've been to all the rallies. I've done this. I've voted. You might have done everything. You might be a card-carrying Republican, but if you say one thing to question anything about that whole group, all of a sudden you're a traitor. All of a sudden you're a Democrat, and it's like, that's how crazy these people are. That's how it's a cult, because there's no rationale behind it. It's just attack. Oh, you're attacking our thing? You must be the enemy. It's like, how'd you get that far? How do you stoop down that low? But anyways, man, yeah, the world's on fire, dude. Like, you got politics. Everybody's all focused on politics, but it's all corrupt, and they're mocking us, and they're taking away rights, and they're doing all this crap. And then you got these women out here who socially, these women are all feminists, and they're all, again, there I go again, they're all, they're not all, but like, it seems like a lot, man. So it's like, dude, where are the normal girls, Like, I don't see many. It's like, I've been dating since 2000, or I've been dating my whole life, really. I've had three girlfriends when I was 8 years old. So I've probably had, if I counted all the girlfriends, serious and non serious, I probably have dated about, I don't know, 25 women, maybe around 20, 25 women my entire life. I had like two pretty serious girlfriends in eighth grade. I had like one serious girlfriend in high school. I dated like four or five serious women after high school. Not to mention, playing around and doing wrong things. I shouldn't have been doing, but so I've got experience. Like, it's not like I'm just an internet guy who's on the internet all day and like never talk to women or something. It's like, we're out here. We're, I've been doing pickup in person since like 2017. I've approached lots of women, and it's like, yeah, there's differences and they vary, but like most of them are feminists. Most of them have bought into that ideology. It's like the new church or something. Like, most women, and it suckers you in because it's like this obvious thing that you would think, you know, everybody should accept. That, I'll talk to women a lot of times, and they're like, "Oh, you don't agree with basic equality?" And it's like, that's not what feminism is all about. It's not just about equality, so they think you're like some kind of monster because you're against feminism, and it's like, no, I'm not against equality, but I'm against feminism because feminism is not about equality. So there's no, like, it's just this, people are brain dead, man. They're brain dead, that's why, like, you talk to somebody who's a, you know staunch Republican, and you're gonna get dumb, repeated echo chamber answers. As you talk to a feminist, you're gonna get dumb, repeated echo chamber answers. And so maybe it's my mistake for saying, oh, it's all of them, right? No, it's probably not all of them. It's these feminists, but then on the other hand, it's like, it seems like women are just accepting this stuff. So I don't know, man. I think most women are feminists, but she's got a point. She's really got a point. But I hope, you know what I hope? I hope that the ones who aren't feminists, the ones who have morals, the ones who have character, the ones who have values, the ones who, I hope they have a voice. I hope they start being represented, because that way it'll show young men, you know what? There are women out here who are decent. There are women out here who have morals. There are women out here who haven't slept around, who were raised right, and who understand what we're talking about. There are women who will listen to us without calling us names, without just totally, you know, uh, devaluing everything we're saying because we're men, or because we're disagreeing with them. It's like, the reason why we talk bad about feminism is because we think it's dangerous. It's because we care about women, ironically. And yeah, we probably don't do it in the right way. I know I don't. There's better people out here than me, who do a much better job, and this platform sucks as far as, like, I understand my content sucks. Like, I get it. I don't get any views. Like, I just do this as a way to vent, and I think occasionally it helps people. I mean, I got like 100,000 views on my YouTube channel total, and I've got like 800 videos. So, like, obviously, it's not objectively successful, but that was never really my point, was to be successful at YouTube. My point was always just to speak the truth, and hopefully it'll help somebody. Hopefully I can just speak something out into the ether, and hopefully somebody will grab onto it, and hopefully maybe I could spark somebody, and motivate somebody to say something, and motivate people to, um, maybe I can motivate some guys who are better speakers than me. But on the other hand, I think of it like, well, I'm actually saying a lot of stuff everybody else is saying, so I don't think they're listening to my stuff, so they're probably just experiencing what I'm experiencing, and they're able to articulate it, and that's great, you know. So kudos, you know. There's a couple guys that I think are fantastic. Like Legion of Men is a great one. You know, I think he's one of the best. And then this guy named Dapper Dev, or yeah, Dapper Dev. I think he's probably short for Devin or something like that. He's really good. He's killing it. I really like him. And there's a few like Taylor the Fiend, although Taylor's a little, the content he puts out's kind of negative. My content's negative too, so I can't. A lot of my content's negative, so I can't really diss Taylor. I'm not trying to diss Taylor. I'm just saying. Sometimes it's like if you're trying to, but I think his channel's probably still effective because he shows real videos, right? And there's a lot of other guys out there. Like I forget their channel names, but there's a lot of guys. You know, mediocre tutorial reviews, or so, I forget that guy's channel's name, but there's a lot of guys who are doing really well. But you know, there's a few guys who are just killing it, you know, and who are doing really well, and they're just articulate, you know, and they're actually getting, you know, lots and lots of views. So I think women are like hearing this, and they're hearing us out, and they're like, you know what, these guys are starting to make a lot of sense, because I'm not satisfied with this. And that's the real thing, is that what I think she's saying here is she's not satisfied, right? She realizes that it was a waste, and she realizes that it probably harmed her life. And I've been saying this since day one, is that these actions, you know, these beliefs and stuff, you know, the feminist ideology has consequences. Going out and sleeping around has consequences. I've been saying that since day one, man. There's consequences, man. And I think women are falling into it, and they're like, dang it, you know, I'm not satisfied. Yeah, sleeping around was fun in the moment, but I don't have anyone to love. I'm getting older, no one loves me, and now I'm starting to see what men really want, because guys are putting it out there, and they're starting to believe it. You know, they were so messed up when they first put out all this feminist stuff, that like when guys push back, they were like, oh no, you're just jealous of us, or you're just an incel, you're just mad because you're a virgin and nobody will sleep with you, you're just mad because, you know, you're a misogynist and you hate women, all this stuff that they push back with. And it's like, okay, well, go do it and see what happens. And now they're starting to get some consequences. But it's still crazy to me how so many of them are still doubling down, how so many of them still won't repent, how so many of them are still just so holding on tight to that. And I understand it. It's like, it's fun, dude. It's fun, like going out, sleeping around, and like getting high, and like living that life. It's fun for a while. It is, you know. It makes, you know, it feels good, you know, doing that stuff. You know, sleeping around or whatever. And it's like a hobby, or it's like a whole different, you know. It's like it's hot and it's interesting, you know, but it's a trap. Honestly, it's a trap. Like, you will get consequences. You're gonna get a broken heart. You're gonna get probably an STD, you know, because it's common. You're probably gonna get a woman pregnant. You know, I've been pretty lucky in those areas, but I've gotten a broken heart. You know, I'll say that I've gotten a lot of broken hearts, because I always wanted love. You know, I like sex, you know, but I always wanted love. And I'm a Christian too, which makes everything harder, you know, because I got to fight that thing telling me, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be sleeping around, you know, and knowing that I'm doing something that's a really bad sin, arguably one of the worst sins you could do, aside from taking a life, you know. The Bible's really against fornication, you know, and for good reason. I think it does damage you, for sure, you know. But yeah, I've been talking about this, man. It's all there, man. The writing's on the wall. Like our generation has to change, because there's no way we can keep going this way. And I think we will keep going this way, because it's prophesied in the Bible that that's what's going to happen. But if we want to survive another generation, which again I don't think we will, but if it's possible that we could survive another generation, this has to stop. It has to turn around. There's no way we can keep plunging into this degeneracy and rampant immorality. It has to stop. And it makes you wonder too, like, how much has it stopped? Maybe it's stopped, but people just haven't talked about it. Like, you have this mentality that, like, oh no, it's everybody who's out there, being degenerate. I don't know, man. I really don't know the answer to that. God knows. God knows what's really going on behind closed doors. But a lot of the statistics don't look good. If 40% of people are single between the ages of like 19 and 30 or whatever, like 18 to 30 or whatever, that tells you that that's what they're doing. They're out sleeping around, right? If they're single, at least 40% of them means almost half of people out there. Like, if there's 350 million people in America, then half of them, 175 million, are out sleeping around. That's a lot, man. Half, 40%, basically half. That's a lot, man. That's a lot of people who are being degenerate, and immoral. And it's like, that's going to be a lot of consequences. Again, it's fun, I'm not a lame guy. I had my fun, and I guess I'm a damaged person too. But I remember the reason why I did it. Sure, I had a infatuation with sex, like anybody, particularly any guy. We like sex, we like the female body. They like it too. They like the male body. It's just like, but of course they lie about it. But anyway, like, I liked it, but even though I had that in me that was like, dang, I just want to go fornicate, I also wanted love. And I remember, like, I was for sure 100% choosing love, and I was 100% choosing to be a Christian and follow God. But I just got so frustrated because women in church were like, just like women in the world, but they were even worse than women in the world. They were like, they had all these standards, and like, and I could never find the right one. So I was like, well, this just must be a culture that, this must be a real problem, So I guess the mistake I made, or the angry conclusion that I made, was I'm just gonna go sleep around, and or I'm just gonna go date, and that's what I did. And then I got hurt a bunch of times, and it's like, because you take what you can get, and like, I should have waited, right? And God told me to wait. He was like, wait, and I didn't wait. I went out and messed around. I went out and got girlfriends and slept around and all that stuff, and I just got a bunch of broken hearts, really. And I'm lucky I didn't, get any of those other consequences. But I for sure got consequences. Let's say that. I've been lied about. A woman lied and said she was pregnant with my baby, and she wasn't even pregnant at all. She lied to keep me in the relationship because I was going to break up with her, and she knew it. And it totally wrecked me. It's one of the things that red pilled me. This happened like back in 2011, 2012, around there. And I was blown away at how messed up young women are out there, and I didn't feel like they were any better in church. It's like, the only difference is that they were maybe more moral, maybe they were virgins, maybe they didn't sleep around. But the truth is that, they didn't want me because I didn't have enough money, or I wasn't spiritual enough, or I wasn't showing signs of being a leading brother in the church. I wasn't showing signs of being maybe I'll be a pastor one day, or maybe I'll be so it's like hypergamy was still in the church, and so I was like, not only are these women rejecting me because I'm not good enough, I don't make enough money, but they're also going out and sleeping around, but if they're in church, then it's just this strict thing that I can't live up to. So it's like, it red pilled me, and I was like, man, why are women like this? Oh, because they're hypergamous. Oh, because they've been lied to because of feminism, So that's my story, man, and I just wish, the only reason I do all this is I just wish it could. All I've ever wanted to do was just inject a little bit of truth out there into the matrix, so I could maybe help some people, maybe spark some minds that could help some people. I don't know if I ever did, but I think probably the truth is that everybody, all men are experiencing the same things I've experienced, and that's why a lot of people are talking about it, and that's great. Ooh, you know who else? Alexander Grace is a good one. I like Alexander Grace. He's good. I mean, there's tons of guys. There's tons of guys. Sandman, but he's obviously a little bit nihilistic. You know, you got people like. Anyway, I don't have to go naming names, but they're all good in some ways, and they have varying qualities in different ways, and some things they say are bad, some things they say are not good advice, like, you know, the Fresh and Fits of the world. I don't think it's good advice to tell men to go sleep around. The Andrew Tates of the world is just totally toxic. Everything about that guy's toxic. You know, not a moral guy, leading men down the wrong way, hyping up immoral things, which doesn't even make sense. It's like you're promoting the same things that is causing this in the first place, that's causing men to be hurt in the first place, you know. But anyway, that's it, man. That's all my channel was for, was just to put some stuff out there, and hopefully I could help some people change some minds, and maybe I could push something a certain way, and you know, the wave was already going, and I kind of just wanted to contribute to it the best of my ability, and also it's cathartic. You know, it's cathartic for me to do this. It's therapeutic for me to talk about it, and I've enjoyed talking with you guys back and forth, you know, even though I don't have much communication, but it is what it is, man. Anyway, I've always hoped things would change. I've always hoped women would change, but I guess the question is it too late? You know, as I say here, you know, is it too late? Some guy's going to have to deal with all that damage, you know? Should a guy accept her past because she's honest about it? I don't know. I mean, there are women who've taken that stance, you know, in the past. I've seen it. I've heard about it. You know, I've dated a couple that have done that. But I just, you know, it's like, I don't know. Maybe I think many men are going to have to, you know. I think many men are probably going to have to, you know, accept used goods and just forgive her. I will say in that context, it's best if the woman, you know, is honest about it, and she truly has repented, and she truly is turning over a new leaf, and she really wants to, and she's really serious about that, you know. Because I hope it's not a ploy. I think there will be a lot of pick-me's and manipulators, and I think there are. I've seen them, you know, and chameleons who are pretending like, you know, they've turned over a new leaf, and they even use God, you know, oh, I'm a born-again virgin, all this stuff. It's like, okay. But yeah, gosh, I hope so. But I don't know, man. It's like, wouldn't it be better if you didn't do all that, and you didn't have all that baggage, and you just met somebody you loved? And listen, like, I'm not even, a lot of men are like, I want a virgin, or no deal, you know. I'm not really like that. I mean, like, I understand, like, all right, you could have a couple, like, you dated a guy in high school and you guys had a little sex here and there. Dated a guy in college, you had a little sex here and there. Like, if you got like under five body count, I'm not terribly mad at that, but it'd be better if it was like 2. But under 5 is not terrible. But anything over 5, it's like, yeah, you're just gonna have emotional damage. You're gonna have pain. You're gonna be jaded, or you're gonna be manipulative, or you're just gonna. I think at a certain point they just start to go really downhill. That's always been my opinion on that. You know, I would, you know, I just wouldn't. I'd probably avoid it. But you know what's crazy is that, like, men love beautiful women, you know, and I've thought about this too. Is like, if I ever met a really really beautiful woman who just happened to have a high body count, but she was cool, down to earth, she was a Christian, you know, she had a good character, but she just, for what, you know, it's like, can a promiscuous woman really have a good character? But so I'm just you know, playing devil's advocate here, and like hypothesizing, like, would I mean, I might, you know, I can be tempted. I'm not a man of stone or a man of steel, you know. I'm a man of flesh. Like, I could be tempted if like just a drop dead hottie, gorgeous woman, totally my type and just amazingly sexy, was like interested in me, and it was really love, and it wasn't my money, like, I probably could forgive her past. To be honest, I might. It's crazy, I might, but that might be the wrong move still, because it's like the problem is that they've got a habit, and they've got this women who've slept around. They're used to cut. I've dated the last girl I dated. We actually kind of tried to make it happen this last summer, and then I dated her like 3 years before that for about a year. And she was a good looking woman. She's not the hottest, but she was good enough to where, like, I could be like, all right, maybe I could work with this, because she was a Christian, because she had a real walk with God and stuff. But she was super flighty. She was super flighty, and she was quick to end the relationship. So we had an argument, and it was actually a pretty big argument. But I wrote her a letter because I was mad, and I wrote her some things I shouldn't have wrote, because I thought it was over anyway. And so, but even if that didn't happen, even if I didn't write her a mean letter, I wasn't horrible, but I just said some things that I shouldn't have said, because I thought it was over. So I was writing her like a broke up letter, and like, I just said some insulting things that I should. I mean, I think it was kind of truthful. Like, I said some stuff about how, like, she was promiscuous and stuff, and that's not good and all this stuff. But it was, but even if that didn't happen, she was still really flighty, and she was trying to manipulate me and trying to make sure I wasn't a Republican and all this stuff. She was trying to make sure that I was like a liberal, and I agreed with what she was saying, and I was on board with feminism and all this stuff. And I was just like, I liked her, so I was like trying to like be as honest as I could without just totally lying to her. But like, because yeah, I do agree with equality. I do agree with basic tenets of equality. So I'd be like, yeah, I'm all for equality, but I don't like liberals. But I didn't say that to her, because I'm thinking, maybe it doesn't matter, But the truth is that it did matter, and I should have been honest, I should have been like, yeah, I'm not a liberal, and I'm not a Republican either, but I don't like either side. But I should have just been honest, like, I don't like liberals because they're just wrong, they're degenerates and all this stuff, and they don't think they are, which is sad, But anyway, man, it's a long story. Everything's a long story, but needless to say, it didn't work out, and I think a lot of it was because she was damaged. She was damaged goods. So, like, at the end of the day, if you're settling for used goods, it's like, you better be ready for that damage. You better be ready for her to flip out, or to act a certain way, or to play some types of games. It's like, you just gotta avoid that somehow. You gotta find one who's decent, who's normal, who's not messed up. Because I just think that's just, it comes with the territory of sleeping around. You're gonna be jaded, you're gonna be messed up, etc. So it's up. I don't know. Like, I've been saying this actually for the last year or so. It's like, I've been realizing that men are probably coming into a place where we don't have a choice. We're gonna have to choose used goods. We don't want used goods, but if we want to have a spouse, or we want to have a relationship, we're just gonna have to, because that's all that's out there. There's nothing else. There's no virgins anymore. There's no. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're about as rare as diamonds, or whatever. There's rare as gold, and diamonds are probably not even that rare, but they're rare, man. So, and even finding one with the body count under 5 or 10, I think that's very difficult these days. Very difficult, man. But I think they're out there. But the problem is like, okay, let's say you find one that's not a feminist, that hasn't slept around, that's not a liberal, blah blah blah. She's got traditional values there, but then she wants you for your money, right? So you can't. It's like, you can't win if you got standards as a man. You gotta just settle. You gotta just hope you get one who's decent. Hope you get one who's manageable, I guess. And it's like, it's a hard season coming up if men are going to put their foot down and say, no, I'm going to stick to my standards. It's going to be a hard season, man. But like I said, I dated a lot, like at least 25 girls. Like, I did a lot. I think I had like 10, and before I was in middle school, I for sure had two solid ones in middle school. I had one in high school, and since then I had like five. Maybe that's not 25, but I've dated enough to where like I also know that I haven't met one that like that's the one I should be with. You know, I haven't met that one. And actually, ironically, a woman said this to me. She was my boss at a job I had when I was 20 years old, 21, something like that. I worked in this little postal shop, and she said she got married recently, and she was glowing because she was married and all this stuff, and she just gave me a really good piece of advice, and I just said, I think I asked her because I was like 21, you know, she was a little older, and she got married, and I asked her, and I just said, hey, you know, is there any advice you can give me as a single guy, you know? I don't know why I said that, but I just asked her that question because she was so nice, and she was always so cool, and she was really good. She was a really good person. Anyway, she said, she goes, you know, there might be two or three or maybe even four people that you date that you think you could be with for the rest of your life, but then you meet you know, the one, or like they're not supposed to be the one. They might be close to being the one, but they're not actually the one. And I was like, and I think she worded it differently, but the way she worded it was better. I'm butchering that, but I think you get the gist though. And that's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, honestly, because it's so true. It's like when I look back on the women that I've dated, like there's like probably three or four of those women that I think I could have that I definitely wanted to be with for the rest of my life. And they seemed close, you know, they seemed like a fit, you know, but as I look back on it, I'm like, man, they were not a fit. They just, for whatever reason, it seemed like it, but they really were not a fit, you know. And I'm really glad that I didn't end up with that person, you know. And sometimes when you get lonely, you think like, oh, you know, um, I wish they would come back, or I wish this one would, you know, I'd totally still marry her or whatever, you know. Like you think that way because you're lonely and you got nothing going on, but even still, it's like lonely, you know, and that's a problem with men is we get lonely, and scarcity is a killer. Scarcity, man. Women are in abundance, men are in scarcity for the most part. And that's the problem. That's why women don't want to let go of that lifestyle, because again, it's fun. It's it's um it's very rewarding, but it's only rewarding temporarily. It's only, you know, the Bible says there is a temporary enjoyment of sin, meaning you can enjoy it temporarily, but it's always going to end. It really is true. It's always going to end. You know, I've sinned a lot in my life, and it always ends, and it's never as good as you think you want it to be, and what you end up doing. Again, I always use this analogy, but it's like a carrot in front of a horse's face. In the olden days when they had carriages, horse and carriages, they would put a carrot in front of the horse so that they would chase the carrot and run. That's what it's like. And it's almost like Lucy with the football with Charlie Brown too. She goes, okay, kick the football, and every time you get close to the football, she pulls it out. It's like that's how the devil works, you know. He tempts you. And he's like, oh yeah, you can go fornicate, you can go do this, but it's like it always ends up just wasting your life. And I spent years like, oh, I got to improve my looks or prove my body or dress better, and it's like years of like trying to fit that standard so a woman will want to sleep with me or want to date me or whatever. And it's like the truth is that what's yours will come your way, and it will stay with you. What's yours will always find you, and it will stay with you if it's yours. You know, I'm not saying you can't ruin a good thing, because you can ruin a good thing, right? But if it's yours, it's meant to be, then it'll probably work out. Is I think the gist of kind of what I'm saying with that is it will work out, and you'll know, and you'll be like, this is the one for me. This is, you know, and you just have this assurance. But I never really had that assurance with any of the girls that I dated. It was more like I was in scarcity mode, and I wanted to keep them around, and I wanted to, you know, um, keep having sex with them, obviously, because that's always that women are always using that sex to get relationships, and the men always want sex, and because women they can have it anytime they want, so it's not that big of a deal for them. But I mean, they want it too, obviously, but they don't get attached to it the same way men do. It's a different strategy for women because again, they can have sex whatever they want, so it's like, so men have to use relationships to get sex, and women use sex to get relationships. Basically, that's how it's kind of always been. Men use.
Hello, Moto.
I'm gonna end there because I'm getting a phone call, but appreciate you listening. Peace.